That hurt. More verticality. All right, welcome to Straight Red Card. This is segment 3. Neither of us have done NyQuil yet at this point, so but that doesn't mean we're kind of NyQuil'd out. Oh, did you read the Shredder interview with Daniel Edelman, the new homegrown signing from New York Red Bulls?
Nope.
Oh my God, dude. And the only reason I bring this up is because he says exactly what we've been saying. The quote is, he says, obviously joining the academy led me to getting an opportunity with the USL team, which now had me going up and playing against men.
What?
Well, guess what? In MLS Next Pro or whatever the fuck it's called, you're not going to be playing against men anymore.
Well, I mean, you'll be playing against potentially three men.
3 men from the other team. I think some guys like, well, I've just looked at all the rosters and from these USL teams, and they have all men all over them. Like, not in Next Pro. That's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
You only are allowed 3 players over the age of 23. You are now going to be playing youngsters, all right, instead of men. And we had this conversation with Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
He agreed that's not good. We want our young
definitely would
players,
be more preferable.
Yeah, we want to play against. We want these young kids to play against men. And here is Edelman saying the exact same thing. This gave me the opportunity to play against men, 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 grown men with hair on their balls and hair on their chest and on their buttocks, probably too, if they're hairy. So anyhow, there's that. Also, unnatural fears. Somebody on YouTube is targeting me for whatever reason, because all I'm getting on my recommendations are a lot of our shark videos. I'm incredibly afraid of sharks. So why do I keep getting these shark videos?
Just click on the ones where the orcas pwn the sharks.
I saw that one where they kick their ass. But I am I have a lot of unnatural fears, sharks being one, which is why I will never swim in the ocean, and elevators. I don't like elevators because when I was 5 in Erlangen, Germany, I was in a shopping mall with my mother, and I ran off on my own and got in an elevator and started fucking around with the controls, and then the power went out in the whole building, and I was stuck in pitch blackness for like 30 minutes in this fucking elevator all by myself. And from then on, I was claustrophobic and I had a fear of elevators. Now, I do take elevators. I use them, but
you just take a hit
like
every
them.
time before getting in it, right?
No, I just make sure I have my phone. So if the power goes out when that fucker's going up and down, I got my phone and it can produce some light and I can text somebody, hey, the elevators are down and I'm stuck in one of them.
I'm gonna go nuts. Get me out.
It's so much better now with phones. Like, I remember before the cell phone, you'd just get in an elevator and pray. You're like, God, I hope this one doesn't
Don't
stop.
elevators generally have an emergency phone?
They might. I don't know. I don't know if all of them do. I know when I was in Chicago doing a show, I did this big show in Chicago with my band, and we stayed at this relatively old hotel. Relatively old, meaning it was quite old, built in the late 1800s. And the elevators there were like coffins. They were like so small. When you got in them, you felt like, fuck, I'm in a fucking coffin, and the doors would shut. You go up and you're like, oh God, please get me out of here as soon as possible. Please get me out of here as soon as possible. And then you get up to the floor.
Like the transportation tubes from Futurama.
Yeah. Except those are clear. Like, I am no problem taking clear elevators at all, with the ones with the glass where you can see out. Like if you're in a fancy hotel, they have those elevators with the glass so you can see the atrium as you go down and up. Like, I love those. Those give me no fears or issues at all. But the coffin sized ones I hate. Like the ones that are like 6 by 6 feet or whatever. It's like,
the doors close, the entire elevator shakes before moving up and down.
And I mean, what if the cable snaps? Human error, that happens. So, I don't know. Elevators still freak me out. I still take them. But if I can avoid them, I'll take the stairs every time. I'm irrational, I guess. Or maybe I'm not irrational. Maybe I'm not. But here in this particular segment, we are taking on your questions and comments. And let's start with one of yours, Brett. Let's start with one of the Twitter ones. You got it?
Okay. Well, yeah. Give me one moment to pull it up.
All right.
I'm going to pull up our good friend Berlin again.
Oh, good old Taylor. Here we go.
All right. So he had asked this question a while back, and I'm like, all right, cool. We'll cover this. And then I forgot. And then I asked him to resend it because there's no way in hell I was ever going to find it again. But he basically said, hey, I have a question or an episodic topic for your channel. Can you go into detail as to what happened with BigSoccer.com and its relegation battles? We dumb Yanks abroad posters don't even understand how fire works. So, real quickly, Derek and I we've talked about when we first did the podcast, we were highlighted on Big Soccer on the homepage, just like Bill Archer and Dan Loney were a lot. We had our channel, our podcast up there. So we frequented Big Soccer a bit. I was there a lot because I worked a job that didn't require a whole hell of a lot of work, and I had a lot of free time on the internet. So, but his question is basically, how was it more or less way I interpret it is how did it go from being like the hub, the central hub for almost all soccer online board fans, and how to go from that to the shell of its former self now?
All right. The answer is content. I know we left at some point. And I actually had several conversations with the then owner of Big Soccer about, I had a friend who I had talked into possibly buying Big Soccer and keeping the website alive. I don't think I ever talked to you about this. And
we talked about it. And
did we?
Like, why would I ever do this?
And then we thought about it more, and we're like, yeah, this is just a dying thing. It's not worth buying. And because let's be frank, that site got zero attention from that owner and from the people that ran it for a long, long time. They just let us run it. I mean, when I say us, I mean Bill, Dan, us. We put up whatever the fuck we wanted. Like, they're like, yeah, just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they had no input, they had no comments, they had no ideas, they had no thoughts. Like, they just had this beast, and they're like, yeah, we're not that interested in it. So you just do what you do, and hopefully it keeps breathing. Well, that doesn't work after a while. You have to rethink the website. You need to, be reinventing yourself. You need to be thinking towards the future. You can't just let the people that post on your site and who you have writing for your site be the only engine. I mean, that worked for a long time, but at some point you need to have feature articles. You need to have inside depth things. You need to, I don't know, you needed more. And then the face of the website never really changed much. It looked like it was built in the 1996 or something.
That was going to be one of my complaints, actually. Opposite of what you're arguing right now. So there was a point where they basically paid for a revamping of Big Soccer, and especially how the forums ran.
Oh yeah,
and it was the way it worked. Especially people who've been on there for years. It was just second nature. You just went through. You knew exactly who's responding to what, and you're talking to whom. You can quote tweet people. It was quote tweet. What same concept, I guess. But you can do that. And then all of a sudden, they changed the look of the site, and the forum just got it just went from a decently run site, more or less. I mean, as decent as it could be
by us,
to being just a massive shit show of just navigating through the forums. It went from looking okay to really not great, and that's from a normie standpoint. And I was more or less the normie in this whole group, I guess, because I didn't have any real workings with anybody else, like, who wasn't on our show, by the way. So
right, you just work with me.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then like I said, I frequented Big Soccer. I was on the forums all the time. But once you made the forums uninhabitable, much like me, a lot of people just left. And I don't know if or when. I mean, it did change again because the site doesn't look like it used to when it first made that change.
Right.
But that was enough to just, people were like, whatever, I'm done with this. And just like any other social media, they suffer from the same thing that everything else suffers from. You know, you have four basic type of people. You've got the trolls, and once you've identified the trolls, they're easy to handle. But the problem is that a lot of people don't take the time to identify trolls, and they react as if there's this person that's being abusive or just ignorant. Either way. And then there's an ignorant group of people who think they know what they're talking about, but have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Then there's the knowledgeable people who do know what they talk about, or to some extent, they have some form of knowledge. And then there's the experts, the people who have firsthand experience, who have contacts with the industry, pundits, etc. And it's just where was the vast majority of the experience at? And unfortunately, it fell more into the trolls and the people who felt like they knew what they were talking about, really, but really didn't. And they actively go out of their way to call you an idiot, despite the fact that they're coming off as the idiot.
Yeah, there were a lot of trolls on there. I mean, we didn't have to experience that much of that, but it was pretty evident throughout the conversations that were had on Big Soccer. And, you know, once you lose Bill Archer and you lose Dan Loney after we left, yeah, you're going downhill fast. You really are. And they did. And they never really invested in saying, okay, we're going to pay you guys a good amount of money to put out good content. And if you're not going to do that, and I had many discussions with the owner at the time, I'm not naming names, but you know, there was never really a time where they're like, yeah, we really value your content and we really value you and we want to make you a bigger feature on our show. And we want to, no, there was none of that. There was no big ideas coming out of there. And so, like I said, I'm not naming names or whatever.
When you lose the featured content, like you're mentioning, like when Bill and Dan left and when we stopped doing our show, when you lose that and you don't replace it with anything, you're basically just turning yourself into an online forum. And the problem with online forums is once somebody gets a bad taste in their mouth, they stop going altogether. And it was a site that was 100% word of mouth. And once that word of mouth dried up, I mean, you stopped having new people coming to your site.
But don't get me wrong, at one point it was huge.
It was the big site, yeah. It was anybody who wanted to do any form of online soccer talk. That's where it went.
It was big. It was big at one time, and then they allowed through neglect to let it peter out. So there you go. That's our answer. I don't know if that gives you the whole answer, but I'm not giving you all the inside scoop because that's between
that's ancient history.
Yeah, and it's between me and other people, and that's a personal thing, and I'm not going to expose people and name names or whatever and say who was the big fuck up and who wasn't.
Keep your eye on Amazon for Derek's tell-all.
It's not going to happen. All right, so you had another quote. Do I want to get to my one quote? Let me do mine.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to you because we had a good question here from Josh G, who's asked, how about that Cole Bassett loan move to Feyenoord? They're almost always top 6 in Eredivisie and they're third currently. I don't think they have much history with American players as far as I know. They don't.
Great to see more clubs looking at American talent. Okay, but we just had this conversation in the last segment. Is this really a big move up for Cole Bassett? Probably not. It's not a big move. I expect him to play.
I think it's a step up. I don't think it's a pure lateral.
It's a very tiny step up, though, Brett. Very tiny.
He's going to be competing for Europa and Champions League, so I'm fine with a move like this. Again, he's going to be playing it, just like everybody who goes to Europe. And they talk about it, the speed of play, the speed of decision making, how sharp you have to be. Even if it is a lateral move as far as the league is concerned, his game's going to up. It's going to improve. Like I said, even if his skill doesn't improve, his speed of play and speed of decision making will have to improve.
It's certainly another life challenge for Cole Bassett. He's going to be going into a place where he doesn't know the language. And it's going to be a personal challenge for him.
He's going to Mallorca.
He's going to have to overcome. This is not a hoppy situation, but it's similar. It is. He is throwing himself into the fire, and he's going to say, I'm going to have to come out of this.
Yeah, challenge yourself.
He's challenging himself, and that is important. And I have to give him credit for that. And we'll see how it works out. But I don't think, once he gets into it, give him a couple months, I think he's a regular starter. And I think he's going to play a lot. So there's that. Blah, 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 blah. Found your channel after you appeared with the 11 Yanks and Tactical Manager. Okay, great. Welcome to the fold, Patrick.
One of us.
Patrick Shatili. Hope I mentioned that. I said that right, Patrick. But welcome here, and I'm glad that you found us through that show. I'm glad my performance was good enough to get you here. Could you have a show about Freddy Adu's career, says Wilmer Sanchez. Why would we do that, Wilmer?
I mean, maybe not everybody's familiar with the Freddy Adu situation. Maybe they came in after his 8th U20 World Cup. We don't know.
Man, there's a whole video on that somewhere on YouTube where Freddy is interviewed at
Grant Wall's got a big interview about him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, no, I don't know if you're kidding or not. No, I mean, could you have a show about Freddy Adu's career?
Let's just do a Cliff's Notes. Youngest player signed at MLS, touted as the next Pele. Never lived up to expectations because he didn't try.
Did a Campbell's commercial with Pele.
Sold some Hoover vacuum cleaners. Or Dyson. Maybe it was Dyson. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think that was Jimmy who did the Dyson commercial. Jimmy Conrad came on our show 7-8 years ago, back when we were still at Big Soccer, and said, this kid's lazy, doesn't work real hard. And that was a really risky thing for him to say at the time. And he was honest with us. He's like, he doesn't work hard enough. He's not going to make it. And he was right. Bing, bing, bing for Jimmy Conrad. Right on the fucking button. Nailed it. He's not going to make it. He didn't make it. And even since then, Freddy Adu's come out and said, yeah, I was lazy. I didn't work hard enough. I should have worked harder. I blew it.
There are a number of highly touted young American players that we seem to keep throwing our hopes and dreams onto, just to watch them go to Europe and fizzle out in Portugal second division or something like that. Randomly picking a league here.
Who was our good friend in our little soccer group that we had on first on SI and then on Facebook? Who was Julian? Was it Julian?
We're doing our the OLS site with.
Julian would not give up on Freddy Adu. Just would not.
I couldn't remember. I don't remember. That was like 2008, man.
Well, we had a blowout eventually because I posted something up on my personal page. He disagreed with it. I told him he was a moron, and that was the last time I ever heard of him. So I didn't even think I said he was a moron. I just said, dude, when are you going to give up on Freddy Adu? I mean, when? At what point? when he's playing in Finland in a third division team, at what point do you give up on Freddy Adu? This dude would not give up on him.
It was such a weird time because Freddy Adu left DC United, he went over to Benfica, and he actually got some starts at Benfica and was playing okay, and then all of a sudden stopped playing for Benfica, and then stopped playing for the team he signed for next, and stopped playing for the team he signed for next, and stopped playing for the team he signed next. Something happened. I don't know. Maybe
Philly didn't want him. They sent him to Bahia and Brazil, where they're like, yeah, this is not good. And then he's tried all over. He went to Greece, he went to Finland. The dude's been everywhere.
USL for a bit too.
He almost got signed by a team in Poland, and the manager's like, yeah, they want me to sign this guy, but fuck this. This guy's not worth signing, and we just had him in training. He sucks. So there's that. So no, we're not going to do a show about Freddy Adu's career.
We sort of just did, but
I know, but there are already videos and interviews out there if you really want to know. And I'm hoping that was a joke, Wilmer. I'm sure it was actually, but hey, man. You trolled us and you got us. Good for you. All right. You had one more.
Okay. So I had a little, so we always talk every window. We always talk about the possibility of Luca De La Torre being included in the roster.
Yeah.
And there seems to always be two camps when it comes to bringing him up. Is he's not good enough, or he is good enough. Obviously, that's the two camps always. But people are always under the impression that most people who are like, "Hey, let's give him a call up," are assuming that he's going to be like the savior of the U.S. men's national team. When in fact, the vast majority of us are just looking at it saying he'll add to our depth, he'll improve our depth and players off the bench, maybe even an occasional start. He's not going to be a key starter. But he'll improve the team.
Did you want to share that?
Yeah, I wanted to just set it up at first.
You did set it up. You did well.
Not so I'm getting better at this, man.
Oh, by the way, Nita Lechner's not coming to Chicago. He said no, and then they re-signed him at Augsburg, so he's not coming to Chicago. Oh, by the way, and Justin Che is off to Hoffenheim, so you know.
Yeah,
on loan to hang out with Chris Richards.
Oh, it's just loan. Isn't it like one of those 18-month loans though?
I think it's a loan to buy. I don't think it's 18 months.
And so many of those 18-month ones are occurring now. It's like the finish out this year, and then you have a whole year loan, and I don't know. Yeah.
So you're working on that share screen thing?
Dude,
here we go.
All right. So I got into a conversation with a Mr. Calcio, and
Calcio is Italian for soccer. Italian for soccer.
Had a perfectly lovely conversation with him. So this is not a look what this guy is saying type of thing. But he some people called him out about the 0 goals, 0 assists thing, which is one of his big talking points. Like, should you feel happy about that? And my joke response was sort of like is it my fault? Is it my fault my teammates can't score when I play them the ball? Luca De La Torre, probably. So we had this conversation, and basically his point was, like I said earlier, like, should he be happy about a season where he has 0 goals and 0 assists? And my initial take on it was, well, he's not really on the team to score goals. Now, don't get me wrong, a couple goals here and there would be nice. But the 0 assists definitely needs a bit of improvement. But I have seen you're going to be bringing this up, I know, but opposite of what you're going to say in a second, I have seen a number of highlight reels where he does play a nice ball to a player and they just simply can't finish.
No, I've seen those.
The chances are there, and maybe on a more lucky day, he would have a handful of assists at this point. But I mean, it is what it is right now. 0 assists as midfielder is definitely not the most promising thing. But if you watch the videos that come out where it's like every touch by insert player here, I mean, you can see that about 80% of the play he does great, And then
there's no doubt that that's the case. That listen, I'm going to bring up Josie at this point, because when he was at Sunderland and he played all those games, he couldn't even accidentally score a goal. You know, one of those things where that Zardes gets, where it like just comes off his dick and goes in the goal, or bounces off his left testicle and goes into the corner. Josie could not get any luck. Like, I mean, how many corners did Sunderland have where it never got to him? He never got to head the ball. How many set pieces was Josie involved with where he just couldn't score? It just didn't matter. He was just jinxed. Not going to happen. Yeah. Sometimes I think the same thing when I watch Luca De La Torre play. I'm like, the guy takes the ball from his own third, dribbles through the midfield, passes by 3 players, gets into the attack. They're countering. He passes the ball off to some guy who fucking launches it over the fucking bar, like by 100 yards. I mean, and that happens to him all the time. But in the same case, Luca De La Torre has made a lot of bad mistakes in that final attacking third as well on the counter. And so he's got to take some of that blame as well. Whereas Josie, nobody would just pass. No one would pass.
Well, I'll say that he did an interview with, I want to say it was a Scuff podcast. I think that's who did it. I don't quote me on that, but that's who I think it is. And okay. He even came out and stated that he needs to improve on his work on that final third. I mean, absolutely. He acknowledges that it's not perfect by any means, and maybe if that was improved, he'd have more assists at this point. But the one thing that, so he goes, Mr. Calcio does go on talking about how there's a bunch of people out there that say that he just needs to get transferred to a better team and he'll get more assists, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think he needs a transfer. Quite frankly, he's playing week in, week out. He just got there last year after about a 4 or 5 year stint of not playing a single fucking match. He's finally got his feet grounded and he's playing and he's doing well. It's just he needs that final play, But I don't think he needs to go anywhere unless Heracles decides to get relegated for whatever reason.
I mean, he's gonna need a little bit of luck, but then he's got to create some luck for himself at some point. This can't go on forever. It's kind of like Sargent. It's like at some point, you're gonna have to either create the luck for yourself by being in the right spot
or getting in a goal.
You're just gonna have to finish, man. I mean, the fact that he's got 0 assists and 0 goals is something I have pointed out before on other shows. And it is frustrating as fuck. Do I think that doesn't mean he can't be a U.S. men's national team player? It doesn't. I think he's got some amazing skills that he can bring to our team that might end up in finishes and goals and scores and assists. So, is he having a hard time in that final third at Heracles? He certainly is. It is frustrating to watch, but it could change any minute. I mean, but it needs to change. Let's just put it that way. So it does need to.
I'll also talk about how there are a couple of people who brought up the fact that he's playing as a double pivot within Heracles. But I mean, just looking at, and that may play a factor as far as maybe not necessarily always having that final pass to cause a goal or an assist. But I mean, if you just look at his highlight reels from each game, just focusing purely on what he does. I mean, every single touch is a touch forward, and he's getting into that final third each time. I don't think it matters necessarily where he's playing in that midfield, as long as he's getting into that attack and has that opportunity. And I know in the most recent game he had a chance where he placed a nice ball and the forward flubbed a shot. It was like a one-on-one goalkeeper, just like the Frankfurt game, like we're talking about, and just like that should have been a goal. That should have been a goal, and that should have been an assist right there. Just in that one play, he should have had an assist. So I mean, if you extrapolate that, say that could have happened at least once a game. I'm throwing out a random made up thing here. Let's just say it's one a game. I mean, that's a big massive difference in the number of opportunities he could have to have assists. But saying that needs to change, and the assists are kind of out of his control because that does rely on the other player to score as well. But in the end, for the most part, everybody in this conversation agreed that they all rate him enough that they want him called up because it's an improvement to what we have sitting on the bench.
He's certainly more nimble. He can cut better. He can make better passes and through balls than Legit and Roldan. So there's that. I mean, you can say, well, he's just playing where he's playing, and that's not that great or that big of a move up anyhow from MLS. So then, yeah, I get it, but
yeah, that's the argument right there that a lot of people who don't rate him, they're like, he's a midfielder on a team that's
I don't think
bottom of the league, again, in a league that's not much better than MLS. So I mean, where would he compare against, say, other MLS midfielders? That's where people are leaning.
I don't think Shredder rated him much either, but let's finish this out with Venezia because they just signed Nani as a striker or forward winger and this is what they need because their problem is they can't score goals. And so that's a huge move for Venezia. And we've seen Nani in MLS and he was vital for Orlando. I think this is going to be a good move. Yeah, and
I think it's going to be a great move for Venezia. They need goals. He's still a freaking machine. So I don't think he's gonna hit the ground running at all. And quite frankly, so. But I mean, this kind of goes to the point where people still. Somebody, I forgot who the person brought this up. They're like, the people who still call MLS a retirement league basically tell me they haven't watched MLS in the last 10 years.
No shit.
Here we are again, a player who you could make the argument would probably just look to retire at this point. He's making a nice, decent contract. He's playing in a league that's not the world's best by any means, but he's one of many European stars. European star, I guess not European star, but star that's been in Europe. That is coming back to MLS and then on his way back to Europe, and we'll play and still perform. I mean,
Slaughton did it. He's injured now, obviously.
Yeah,
but he went back to Europe after being in MLS and was a superstar again. Rooney, same thing. I know he only played at Derby, but I get it. He was a star for Derby. So this whole idea that this is some retirement league. I almost want, listen, when somebody says that, and I see it less and less, thankfully, these days, I just want to punch them in the face. Like, this is not
Get some better material.
This is not a retirement league, you dick fuck. I mean, when's the last time you actually explored the rosters for the MLS teams? They're getting younger and younger. And in fact, we're bringing in more and more players from South America, Central America, young players. So screw your bullshit.
I actually made that argument. Crap. I made that argument. Mind you, the person who tweeted that initially was saying that drove her nuts. She was a pundit for some. She covered a lot of the Italian league and stuff like that, and MLS. I can't remember her name, but she was basically saying that drives her up a wall. And I go, yeah. And my whole point was, I posted, I'm like, well, MLS has on average, the average age player in MLS is less than the average age player that's in EPL, and it's on par with about Germany and a couple other top leagues. So I mean, the age factor and the retirement argument is bullshit.
No, it is bullshit. Just because Toronto signed Insignia at, what is he, 31? Listen, 31 is the new 27 at this point. 31 is not old anymore. I don't know if you followed this, but Tom Brady's still fucking playing quarterback for the Buccaneers at 58.
Everybody's mind collectively exploded when he signed for Toronto. I mean, they're like, I can't believe he left to go to Toronto. They're still expecting him to play a couple of years in it. What is it, with Napoli?
Yes.
Yeah. They didn't expect him to go.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is ridiculous. It's not a retirement league because no team wants some slow, sluggish fuck playing on their team who is all burnt out. No, that we're done with that. Just name me. Listen, we had Lampard. He played a couple. He's gone. We had Gerard played. They're like, nah, that's not working. Gone. Listen, if you can't play, you ain't gonna stay, and that's the bottom line here. And those were all years ago at this point. So when I listened to Jason Davis's show, The Best Soccer Show, and they went on about all these possible signings of European, players who are kind of past their prime. I'm like, none of those guys are getting signed, dude. None of them. Because the ones that are obviously done, you look at Fabien Johnson. No one, except for Cincinnati, was interested in Fabien Johnson. Why? Because he's old, he's hurt, he's injured, and he's done. And when you realize they're done, look at Aaron Johansson. He thought he would go play in MLS. They said, no, you're not. No one was interested because he's injured, old, and he's done.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, MLS is not a league where we sign a bunch of fucking old fuckers who can't play. If you're going to tell me Zlatan, when he was signed by Galaxy, couldn't play anymore, then you weren't paying attention, because he played, and he played well. And now, is he a fucking pain in the ass? He sure is, for the whole team. Although I think the team was kind of a bunch of pussies. But anyhow, and I'm an LA Galaxy fan. I'm just going to say the day of us signing players who are over the hill are done. If an MLS team is going to pick up a 30-something player, they're going to have to believe this player can A, stay healthy, B, play ball. And if you can't do that, no one's going to be interested in you. Just go look at Fabien Johnson. Go look at Aaron Johansson. Go look at a whole bunch of fucking rumors that Ronaldinho over the years. Nobody signed his ass either. So, all right, we're done with that conversation. So you, MLS is a retirement league. People can go suck an egg. Suck something worse than an egg if you want to. A lizard, a gecko,
that has a whole innuendo in its own right there.
The toad. I don't know. Suck it. Either way. I think we're done for the night. God, did we get through segment 3? Holy shit.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up my new drink of choice for tonight.
Oh, what's that?
So, quick question. You had made a couple drinks. What were you drinking tonight?
Don't. It's low. It's so, I'm drinking vodka and orange juice.
So I have the day off, so I was day drinking today, and decided that my drinking time ended at 7:00. So my drink of choice today, for the beginning of the show, was an 8-ounce glass of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and a lemon.
What?
Tasted like shit.
What the fuck was that for?
Detoxing your liver, helps digestion.
Detoxing
good for your skin.
Cranberry juice. That's what detoxes the liver.
There's a bunch of
How old are you? And you're worried about your liver already?
Oh, the amount that I drink, I've always got to keep an eye on that. The more I do it now, the less I'll have to do it later. And I'll get just like anything, like all the liquors and stuff like that. When I first started drinking, I'll eventually grow a taste for it. Whatever.
Well, if somebody
just drink apple cider vinegar straight from the bottle,
I might have good genes, right? So it might not be an issue, but you're 10 years younger than me, I think, somewhere around there, and pretty sure I'm pretty hardcore. So I'm guessing I'm fine. You'll be fine for another 10.
I'll be hopefully for another 10. Now I'll be fine. I have no history of liver issues, and my family's part Irish, so one would imagine that if I was going, Bill Burr always talks about how with him being Irish, he's got half a liver, being drunk. But no, I'm sure it's gonna be fine. It's just so I needed a drink for the show, and I cut myself off at 7:00, and I was like, I'm just gonna have something I can sip on because it tastes like shit.
I've had through my musical history, not going to mention. He's a very quite mildly famous musician who died of alcoholism. And I once asked him, so when do you know this before he died, obviously?
Yeah.
And I don't want him, I'm not laughing about him dying. It was very sad at the time, but I was like, how'd you know when shit was going south? He's like, when I woke up and my liver hurt every morning. I'm like, damn, didn't that like give you a warning? Like maybe you should stop drinking and keep playing guitar and singing and making amazing music that people want to listen to. And he just couldn't stop. And the problem is he drank from morning to when he went to sleep. And if you're waking up and drinking from morning until you go to sleep, yeah, you're going to die. So you need to moderate. You need to say, I'm not drinking until 7. I'm not drinking until 6 p.m. I'm not drinking. And he was a musician, so he didn't have a day-to-day job, and he was a successful musician. So he just woke up, started drinking, and drank the whole fucking day until he passed out at 4 a.m. in the morning. And if you do that long enough, you're going to die. So don't do that, folks.
This is the medical portion of our podcast.
Yeah. You got to keep it chill.
We aren't doctors, by the way, guys. So YouTube, don't hit us. This is not medical misinformation. I think it should be common knowledge.
I don't think there's any controversy about saying that when you wake up at 9 a.m. and you drink until you go to bed at 3 a.m. the next day, that's probably not a good idea.
You know, there's going to be a poster that's like, my grandfather drank from when he was 18 years old, all day, every day, smoked 10 cigars and cigarettes. You know, he lived to 142.
But he probably drank 3%, 4% American beer. And that's
practically hydrating yourself.
That's not going to kill you. But waking up and drinking the hard stuff all day long is going to kill you eventually. Might kill me, even though I start at like 7. So I go from 7 till whenever I go to sleep, but I never wake up and start drinking. That's a bad idea. My parents just had a neighbor who died because that's what he did. He woke up, he drank all day, and then he died. And
only on the vacay is when that happens.
God damn, could we have ended the show in a more dark way? This is the gruesome. It's gruesome.
Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad.
Drinking's bad.
Yeah, don't do drugs.
All right. We're going to sign off now. This was segment 3. Thank you for living through it with us. Livering through it with us.
Speaking of liver, no.
Make sure you like, subscribe, share it with your grandma, and just keep watching, folks, because I mean things are moving in the right direction. We got past the algorithm, I think, for the most part. Things are back to normal. So not 100% back to normal, but close. And so we want to thank you for continuing to support us and being out there and saying great things about us and sharing our shit. Not our literal shit out of our asses, but the shit on the show. So keep doing that. Okay, until the next time. Good night. That hurt.